Good?
Yeah, it's been good.
Okay, cool. All right, welcome to CarbonCast. This name is probably going to change in the next 24 to 48 hours, but we're going to start with something. My name is Caleb. I'm the personal training director here at Carbon Performance. This is
Chris.
There you
Sorry.
go. I don't know if you want my Chris or Christopher.
No, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason we're starting this podcast is to help with education. I'm sure if you go to Google and type in any topic, you can find a million different answers. So information overload can cause a lot of procrastination. So we want to educate, we want to inform, and we also just want to show some damn personality because a lot of gyms do not do that. Mm-hmm. So we're going to use that as a segue to show a lot of stuff other than just education. Background for me, I've been training now online and in person for about 12 years, going on 13. It ages me pretty well. I have my degree in exercise science. I have some certifications. A lot of them have expired because I just don't care. Mm-hmm. My most recent one was a functional nutrition and metabolic specialization course. But basically, I like to help people improve their health markers, live their best life, and have a damn good time while doing it, and educate the hell of them so they don't need to pay someone the rest of their life.
Yeah. So elevator pitch for me. I have been coaching and training for almost 9 years now. I've been in the fitness world for about a decade. I started when I was 15. I lost 100 pounds, gained it back by the time I was 17, lost it again, battled bulimia in 2016.
Jesus.
Have been all over the place, and we'll kind of get more into that in the future. I'm a national level classic physique competitor in the NPC. I've won a few shows. So I work with a wide array of individuals, both just transformation and also competitors at a local, regional, and professional level. I do have certifications as well, as a lot of them have also expired because I just don't give a shit. But yeah, so you're getting 20 years worth of experience from both of us, hands-on. We've both worked with thousands of people at this given point. So our biggest thing, like we kind of talked about, is trying to help lead people in a general direction of success, because there are countless camps within fitness, and everybody's obviously going to die on their own hill. And a lot of times you don't know what hill that you want to start on or die on. So we want to try to help guide people through what we found has been successful for most people.
Yeah. I think a good way to kind of start would be like talking about maybe two or three of the biggest things or misconceptions or myths we bought into when we started. Okay. So first off, more?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. You're good. It's me.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So first off, the one that I was told is that creatine was a steroid.
Yep.
Did you ever hear that one?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I actually, on top of that, when I went to get a physical, or I had to get a physical for football, the physician also told me that I couldn't take protein because it was bad for my kidneys. So
we can talk about that too.
Had that one as well in the supplementation world. Yeah, so we've heard creatine's a steroid. There's a million different conceptions around steroid, or not steroids, around creatine.
That too, though.
That too. But talking about like loading, front loading, how much to take, when to take, which type is the best. It's 5 grams of creatine monohydrate is ideal. It's not a steroid, guys. You can take it. It is the most clinically researched and backed supplement on the market. Mm-hmm. It's very safe. I advise it for most of my athletes. It's going to help tremendously with performance in the gym. Yep. So the one that I think I still run into, which is very surprising, is the idea that people think they have to swap out their workouts every week to confuse the muscle, which obviously is ridiculous. Yeah. The way to simplify this and explain it in the shortest form is, in order for a muscle to grow, it has to be presented a similar stimulus every single week, where we're gradually challenging the muscle more and more, typically called progressive overload. All of these exercises that we're doing are a skill, right? So that means that it's going to take time to master the movement. It's like if I was to ask you to go swing a golf club, you're going to have to do it thousands of times to learn how to do it effectively. That applies to every exercise. So we have to practice these movements week after week after week. And as we learn to master those skills, we're going to develop more strength and more muscle. So you don't want to swap shit out every single week. It's not going to work.
Yeah. And in order to have any kind of confusion, there has to be a sense of consciousness, which your muscles do not have. So that's debunked right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the creatine one, even when I worked at GNC in college, dude, kids would walk in and be like, how do you guys sell that? I'm like, what the are you talking about? And they're like, it's a steroid. I'm like, yeah, you should buy it before we get it pulled from the market. Hella commissions.
Yeah,
Hella
for sure. Yes, as both Caleb and I have also managed GNCs, so that does verify that we are experts in the supplement realm, as I think every bodybuilder has managed a supplement store in their life at least one time.
Yeah, that's probably, if you look that up, that's probably like a true statement.
I would say so. If you haven't, at this point, if you're a bodybuilder and you haven't managed a supplement store or managed a gym, you're not a bodybuilder.
Yeah, you're basically an amateur. Even if you have a pro card, doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
Another huge one I got was like low reps to grow muscle, high reps to tone, which I despise the word.
Yeah, I hate the idea of tone, because tone, especially when we get in the context, especially like women always, I want to get toned. That means you want a better shape, and that means you have to have more muscle. So that means that we need to be developing strength. There's everybody's going to skin the cat a different way when it comes to rep ranges that they like to stick to. In my opinion, for keeping injury risk lower, I like 12 to 15 reps in that range, maybe 8 depending on someone's skill set and level of experience, and upwards of like 20 to 25. But the only way that a muscle is going to grow is if we're applying effort and intensity. So some people psychologically like 25 reps. They connect better with it. They enjoy it more. Some people like 8 to 12. I'm an 8 to 12 guy myself. It's all about just your preference, but also the intensity applied. But doing 8 reps or 25 reps is not necessarily going to change how the muscle grows or doesn't grow or tones or any of that bullshit. It doesn't. No. It's not how it works.
You can cause hypertrophy from a lower rep range with enough stimulus over time. You can do the same thing with a higher rep range. They have showed that with higher rep ranges, it takes a little bit longer to achieve that, but it's still possible. So don't just fall into that trap. Segueing off that, I don't want to get too bulky. I've coached mostly females throughout my career, and one thing I can say, unless you are a hyper responder, you have high testosterone naturally for a woman, or unless you're using performance enhancing drugs and eating like a power lifter, it's impossible for you to get too bulky. There's been like 2 clients in my whole career where they've gained quick, and I had to retract that statement. Yeah,
the way I always explain to people, because I've also heard it from guys recently too, and I'm like, dude, okay, that's weird. I want to get, I would love to get too bulky. You're not going to just like sneeze and get jacked one day. Like you're not just going to like accidentally trip and fall. Like it isn't. I have women on my team who fight, crawl, and steal to try to put on muscle.
Yeah.
It's not that simple of a process, but the pursuit of it is what's going to change someone's body composition, right?
Of course, yeah.
You're not going to just get too jacked. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, 100%. If I could drink water and lift weights and that's all it took, I would be huge.
Yeah, it would be massive. Okay. For sure.
What's another one you used to believe in? Or you heard? Or
I've heard. Well, for a long time, I was under the understanding that if you did more volume, you'd grow more, right?
So when you bought into that, were you starting out new?
I was like, probably 17, 18 at that point.
So we're natural?
Yeah.
Okay. I bought into that as well. And the more volume you did, the skinnier I got.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't out-eat how much I was expending, right? Yep. So I was and also I was doing high frequency too, because I was like, well, if I train it more, it'll grow more. So I was training like 6-7 days a week, not recovering, not eating enough either. And it was just like I was just getting leaner, but I wasn't getting any bigger.
Which is not bad, but it's not really the goal here.
No. What else you got?
Other stuff I used to fall into a lot is, this was like a very short-lived thing, but have you ever heard of myostatin?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the biological identity where basically the bulls don't have this mechanism, so they can put on stupid amounts of muscle.
Yeah.
I remember they started selling a powder. It was, I think it wasn't Muscle Tech. What was the blue with yellow?
Blue with yellow was they sponsored MHP.
Yeah, MHP. That's what it was.
Yeah.
They made myostatin inhibitor, so you were supposed to grow more muscle. And I was still completely natural, never touched anything in my life. And I started using this, and it was like $80 for 30 servings.
Yeah.
And I tried that bad boy out. It's just like, I feel like you're so malleable when you're young.
For sure.
That if any guy bigger than you says anything, you just take it verbatim.
Well, I think the other issue is, too, we all tend to glorify supplementation, especially anything that's kind of in that weird super supplementation kind of realm, but not really, especially like the SARM nonsense. Yeah. Versus if you were to go tell an 18-year-old kid right now, hey, man, if you just eat more food, recover more, and train harder, you'll grow. They're like, no.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, dude, if you take this, you'll grow. They're like, dude, I'll give me 12 now.
100%.
Yeah. Especially in the SARMs world, we see that way too much nowadays. I hate how mainstream it's gotten. They don't work. I think what people fail to understand is from a pharmacological standpoint, the performance enhancing drugs that people tend to utilize are also SARMs. They're just the ones that actually have the most clinical research for pharmaceutical companies who take them to the market.
Yeah, of course.
Whereas the SARMs that we're using now, that we see that all these 18-year-olds are wanting to use, those are the ones that didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
And they've just been backlogged, and now they're starting to resurface, and they're being made in somebody's bathtub, and they're not good.
Yeah, which is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything made that's not safe, like, just stop, please.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another one I used to fall into, honestly. You don't have any more? You were that smart, huh?
Yeah, well, because I'm trying to go back a decade and think of when I was a dumb 15-year-old, what I was doing. And a lot of it, like, again, I was one of those people that I didn't hire a coach for like the first 8 years that I was in this world. So I very much was researching on my own and trying it out on my own. But I was also, I think I just got lucky and I was just looking at the right formats, right? I was looking at like T-Nation, and I'm trying to think of what other forums I was looking at, like Chad Wesley Smith stuff. Like I coincidentally just found the right people in the industry to look towards, to try to understand it, and just kind of gravitated towards them, and obviously it kind of developed and blossomed as I went. So I wasn't looking at like the Joey Swole like 3-week shred challenge
V-shred,
bullshit type of nonsense, right? I didn't get bought into that. I kind of like dodged that bullet and just kind of worked around it and found what worked. So I'm trying to think of what other nonsensical things I've seen and heard. What do you have?
I don't have any more, but like I wanted to go back to something you said when you were kind of talking about your background and everything. How did you overcome the eating disorder?
So what happened? So I've had a wide array of eating disorders. Growing up, I was very much a closet eater. I was very much an emotional eater. I wanted to start losing weight as early as like 4th grade is when I started getting picked on for my weight, and I just didn't know how. So I used to like basically fast all day, and then I'd go home and binge eat. And so 2000. When I was a freshman in high school, I got introduced to the weight room. I started lifting weights, started trying to make more conscious decisions about nutrition, and it was just kind of, puberty started to hit me, and I just kind of like lost weight. And then gained it all back by my junior year of high school for sports. I hated how I looked, and then I learned about flexible dieting, learned about tracking macronutrients, started understanding like strength progression a little bit more. I started falling in love more with the gym than I did sports. I was just training more than I was practicing. And then I lost another 90 pounds going into my senior year of high school. Puberty like smacked me in the fucking face. I grew my hair out, all this good stuff, and I started getting a lot of unwarranted attention. I didn't know how to deal with it, right? Because I was very much like an outcast of a person, and then I went to high school with like 3,000 plus kids, and then I was kind of the center of attention. I didn't know how to operate. So I had this conscious thought that I had to be, I was like a $180 my senior year of high school. I was like, I have to be 180 for people to like me. So I was like weighing myself numerous times a day. I didn't have a free meal for like 2 years because I didn't know what it was.
You stayed on point.
I stayed on plan for 2 years straight. And then I hurt my knee, so I couldn't do cardio, couldn't train legs for a little bit. So I was like, oh shit, I'm getting fat. And I was still probably like 9% body fat. So the second I got cleared, I started doing intermittent fasting. And the extremist in me started pushing it to like 8, 12, 16, 24-hour fasts. And then I would start binging, and then I would go do hours of cardio, and then I would purge. So that continued for like 9 months straight. I ended up getting down to 161 pounds. And it was not the day that I ended up in the emergency room that I stopped. It was the day that I couldn't deadlift 405 anymore, where I was like, something's not fucking right here. Like this isn't normal. And then at that point I was like, okay, something might need to change. And I like sought therapy out, and then started working with a therapist and started understanding what was going on. Cause like at the time I didn't know, I felt like it was very uncommon for me as like an 18-year-old young man or boy to go through that. I was like, there's no way nobody else is going through this shit. And so finally, when I got to that point where I couldn't deadlift 405, that was like the one final, like last straw for me. I was like, I need to figure this out. So for like the next 2 years, I basically very slowly reverse dieted. I was adding in like 10 grams of carbs every 12 days to my diet. So it was like the slowest reverse diet on this planet. But then at a certain point in probably about a year and a half later, something shifted in me, and I was like, oh, food is for nourishment, it's for performance. And I was so fixated on performance at that point that at some point it just kind of, I lost my way as far as like my food fixation or fear of food in that sense. And that was really like probably 2018 was when I had my like last stint with it. I say this not because I gatekeep or advocate against competing, but that my first time I competed definitely exacerbated some of those issues and kind of brought it back.
Yep.
But knock on wood, I haven't really had an issue surrounding it since, because I've also learned that, like, from a physiological standpoint, it doesn't benefit me to purge, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I've never had like a diagnosed eating disorder. Like after shows, you know how it goes, where you binge for like weeks and weeks, but when you're ignorant to the fact. But outside of that, I can't really relate to it too much. Do you find that, just based off of your history with it, do you find that people with that same kind of background or disorder kind of gravitate towards you?
I think so. And it's one of those things, looking back, like going through all the things that I have, like same with post-show binging. Like my first show, I gained 53 pounds in 3 weeks.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, dude, I was a $189 on stage like October 19th, and by Thanksgiving I was 245 pounds. If that puts into perspective, dude, it hurt. It hurt bad. It hurt bad.
Yeah.
But it's taught me a lot of empathy and understanding in who I work with, and I can very much like. Not just I can talk the talk because I have walked the walk, especially on my own.
Yep.
I definitely do think it tends to gravitate those people towards me because on my social media I do talk about it pretty openly.
Yeah.
So I work with a really cool group of people, but that's where I take a lot of pride in, is how I develop nutritional plans and kind of how that approach is taken.
Like that. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, like, which is why I think when I first met you, like I saw you in the gym, I talked to people that like you were coaching and stuff like that. And when I first saw your social media, I related to it a lot because I always got shit from my buddies when I started my business. They're like, dude, why are you talking about like your insecurities and shit?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, why are you talking about things that like scare you and like all this other shit? I'm like, because it's fucking relatable. And like, I'm tired of this stigma that you can't open up about like what goes on in your fucking head and your struggles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because the more that you hold that shit in and don't share it with other people, the more people just feel that isolation.
For sure.
Where what you've done before even coming on at Carbon is you created a coaching company where people might come to you first just because they like your personality, and then they see like, oh, this guy actually knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So. And
I think for me too, like for a long time I actually like compartmentalized that chapter of life to where I disassociated from it. Mm-hmm. So in 2019, I like realized, I was like, oh, I was bulimic. Like I like literally had to like have the revelation, like, Chris, you actually went through that. And there's just one day where I felt really compelled to share my story. Because I was like, there has to be someone else who's been through this.
Yeah.
And that's when I like had the first moment of like where I think my purpose lies, and when I had people reach out to me like, dude, I had no idea I wasn't the only person who went through it, right? Yeah. So now I just open up about and everything. I don't give a shit. I overshare everything because I'm like, well, it might help somebody, so I might as well. And it's also therapeutic for me just to get it out, whether it's through word or like through writing or through word itself. Like that's something that helps me as well.
I got that. Why did you get into lifting? I'm curious. What pulled you to it?
So I think it was one of those things, like I was obviously like an angsty kid, right? Like I was picked on super aggressively through late elementary school, through middle school, and then obviously into high school. And it was one of those things, I never thought I'd look the way that I do, but I needed an outlet of some sort.
Yeah.
And I was very heavily involved in sports, and I'd always heard like, well, if you lift weights, you're a better athlete. Yeah. And so when I got into high school, I got introduced to the weight room because I threw shot put and discus in high school. And like the first time I picked up a barbell, I was like, oh, this is fucking cool. Yeah. Right? And it had nothing to do with really like the aesthetic goal. I never really had aesthetic goals. Like I just wanted to look normal, or what I perceived as normal. And then I just kind of fell in love with performance and strength. And then lo and behold, guys, the aesthetic changes are the byproduct of performance. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, because I never intended on competing. That was never the goal. I started coaching people when I was like 17. I was helping my buddies in high school. Yeah. By 2018, I started actually helping prep people. And I had an athlete in a show in 2018. And all my buddies were like, dude, you should do this. Because Classic Physique had like really just hit the scene. Yeah. I was like, dude, I don't know if that's like what I want to do. I don't really like being the center of attention. And one of my buddies, Mike, was like, you need to like step out of your comfort zone for once. And I was like, okay, fuck you, I'll fucking do it. Yeah. And then I did a 33-week prep in 2019, and I won the Flex Lewis Classic. And I was like, I literally stepped off stage, and I looked at my parents, and I was like, I guess I'm good at this. Yeah. And they were like, because they had no idea. They didn't know what just happened. They're like, I guess you are too. And that's literally what kind of pulled me into competing. I was like, well, I guess I'm pretty good at it.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah.
I think kind of the same why I started. I was just super insecure, and like all through high school when I played sports, like not to be like that egotistical douche, I kind of was a stud at least football. You know what I mean? And I was the worst fucking athlete because like I didn't lift in high school because I was told I had to. So I
Gotcha.
didn't want to do it because my coaches told me I had to.
Gotcha.
Like, I was
Yeah,
that
yeah.
rebellious asshole.
Yeah.
And then I kind of fell into it in college because I quit sports. And for the first time, I really felt anxiety.
You need something.
Because I had all this output and then it just got shut off. So then when I really got into it heavily, like I felt better. My anxiety just dissipated almost completely. And at this time, I watched my mom being abused throughout my whole life. Like, love my mom. She had very poor taste in men. So, like, I promised myself after I got out of football and started lifting that I was going to get scary enough looking that no one would ever f with my mom, my family again.
Yeah.
And luckily that, like, pushed me into an addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I come from a family of addicts, so I chose this to be addicted to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it helped a lot with my mentality on just the outlook of life.
For sure.
I'm sure, as you know, as Alex knows, as everybody knows, if you get into working out, no matter what the stimulus is, whether it's cardio, running, lifting, no matter what it is, if you do it religiously over a period of time and then you quit, you feel out of whack.
Yeah.
You feel completely fucking off, and it just like throws you for a loop. So it just goes to show that anything can be addicting. So if you're going to be addicted to something in life, make it something that's going to benefit not only your body and your health, but your mental health as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think, and I'm very much an addict too. And I think that's where it just kind of worked for me because I'm also like a very high-strung, anxious person, and it's just provided.
No.
I know. As I just got diagnosed with ADHD this week, so it's like shout out to my parents, but love you guys. But no, I needed structure, right? It's like it's provided me structure. It's provided me like I eat on a routine, I train on a routine, and it's like people always ask like, how do you stay dedicated? I'm like, dude, it's just what I have to do.
Yeah.
Like if I don't train, I lose my shit at this point. Like I have to train 5 days a week, and because it's my structure and it's just what I do. No matter what day of the week it is, I'm like, okay, it's Tuesday, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
That's what I like focus on, and that's kind of my anchor for the day. And then I schedule and do everything else around that.
Yeah.
Right. But it's very much like I've integrated my life around fitness in that sense, but also fortunately my life is fitness, right?
Yeah.
That's what I do for a living. So it all kind of works synergistically at this point.
Yeah, of course. And like lately, like you know about it, but I took a position that takes up a lot of my time because I work at the gym. I'm the director of that, but I also do online coaching and consulting and stuff like that. And I spread myself very thin, and I haven't had this problem for honestly probably like 6 years. But no one had said anything to me about it, but I felt myself being like overly irritated and aggressive at the stupidest shit. Not like punching people, but just like talking louder and just getting mad over stuff that didn't matter. So like last week I went into the office where all the other managers were and like the CEO, and I was like, hey, I'm just gonna apologize to everyone because I did some self-reflecting and I realized how off I've been for like 3 months now. So like I think that's why it was like at the forefront of my mind, is because it just happened last week to me yet again. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think kind of to your point, when you have a routine like that, discipline isn't even a question, because at that point, it's like if you don't do it, you don't feel like yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm like reliant on it to a certain degree. Yeah. Right? Like I still take time off during the year, like especially after shows, I'll take breaks and whatnot, but like I have to tell myself to do it in order to do it. Yeah. But like I don't miss days anymore because it's just a part of what I do. And it's always been that way. Like, you know, when I've worked every job under the sun, but no matter what job I was working, what I was doing, how many hours a week I was on the job site or whatever, I still always figured out a way to get to the gym because I need it. Yeah. Right. It's not just a want, it's a need at this point. So it's like I don't really like the whole like what motivates you. I'm like I don't really strike myself as like a very motivated person in that sense. It's just what I do. Yeah. Right. It is who I am.
Yeah. Because when I see Chris come in the morning for morning cardio, he doesn't look motivated. He just looks like he has to be there.
No, dude, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there.
So motivation doesn't fucking work, guys.
No, it's not. It's very short-lived and it's very unfulfilling. It's like it's just a part of what we do. Yeah. You know, it's like you just this is a very simplistic process. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. That's why not all of us can achieve what we dream to do or set out to do. And that's why we look up to those who can, right? Because there's an economic system to it. But it's simple. You either do it or you don't. Yeah. And if you do it, you get the results. And if you don't, you don't. And that's fine. You have to accept that. Yeah. And so I just choose to do what I need to do because it's simple. It's black and white. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else on your end that you want to put in today before we wrap this first episode up?
I don't think so.
We ripped it a lot more than I thought we were going to. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching this first episode. We'll probably put a poll up somewhere or like comments or something. More topics you want to learn more about. drop them in the comments or put them in the poll. And we're going to try to do these at least once a week. We all have hectic schedules, so obviously with Christmas coming up, we'll obviously work around that, but we're going to try to get at least one out a week. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, guys.